So how much can landlords realistically raise rents in the year 2022 and 2023? Hi, I'm Juan, president of Sage Real Estate here in Long Beach. Thank you for tuning in. There's a lot of confusion on what are the rights, how much can a landlord raise the rent, what types of properties are exempt, and so today we're gonna cover all that in this video. Now we know that nationally rents have been increasing significantly. For instance, in Palm Beach, Florida, rents have gone up by 27% year over year. Now here in California, in 2019, they tried to do away with that by subjecting the entire state to statewide rent control, also known as AB 1482. So what is AB 1482? It's really interesting. I deal with a lot of appraisers, a lot of real estate agents, a lot of real estate brokers, people in the industry that should know that all of California is now subject to rent control and has been subject to rent control since 2019. A lot of people somehow don't seem to understand that. They think that their city is excluded from it, but let me be clear. AB 1482 covers the entire state. And so there are certain guidelines that this law has put in place to let tenants and landlords know what the maximum rent could be. So let me get into that. Since a lot of folks don't know that there's statewide rent control, some of those folks don't know that there's exemptions because there's certain properties that are not subject to rent control. What that means is not every property is gonna have a rent cap. What's that mean? That a landlord could literally raise the rents as much as the market will bear. Now, what properties are exempt? Single family homes are not subject to rent control. That means if you rent a house, a landlord has the right to charge whatever they would like. Condos, new construction. If you live in a property that was built no more than 15 years ago, that property is going to be exempt from rent control. So can that landlord exceed the rent cap? Absolutely, because they're not covered by that protection. A few others, if you live in a duplex and the landlord lives on site on one of those units, that property, it's exempt from rent control. One of the situations that I'm seeing a lot is someone owns a single family home, they add an ADU in the back. How's that looked at? Now, let's remember that if a property was just built within the last 15 years, that's not subject to rent control. Another exception is commercial properties, because technically you're not going to be living within the commercial property. So commercial properties are not subject to rent control. So if you have a 3-unit building, a 4-unit building, or larger, you're going to be subject to rent control. So how much can landlords realistically raise rents in the year 2022 and 2023? The way that the law was written is that a landlord could raise the rent during a 12-month period, 5% plus CPI. Now that's where most people stop, and that's a little bit incorrect because it's 5% plus CPI with the cap. There's a cap of 10%. So let's get into the numbers now. So we know that the minimum that a landlord could increase the rent would be 5%. Now there's the CPI component. CPI stands for the Consumer Price Index. That number is going to come from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And so the Labor Statistics Bureau keeps track of what the cost of milk goes up by, gas, cost of living, and there's a percentage. That is what they refer to as CPI. It's tracked on a monthly basis. And this law here in California decided for whatever reason to base it off the month of April. Now, in the month of April, it looks 1 month back. So how do you determine CPI? Now, the quick answer is to log on to the website, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's the quick answer. Now, in California, there are 26 metropolitan statistical areas. Okay, so every area is actually going to have a different CPI. So depending on where you own apartments, it's very important that you focus in on your area. Now here in the LA County, Orange County area, last year that CPI for the month of April, which is the month that we've been told to use, was 3.6%. So all of last year, the big question was how much can the landlord raise the rent? That number was 8.6%. in our region here in Southern California. Now, moving forward, that CPI is going to change because year over year, what we've seen is that inflation has been on a significant rise. And so that CPI last month in this region of LA Orange County, that CPI bumped up all the way to 8.5%. That is the new CPI. Why that is significant is, well, A, you have a significant jump, but going back to everything that we're hearing in the news, that inflation, the cost of goods is going up, this is proof on how much it's going up. So the good news is that AB 1482 did put a cap of 10%. So although the CPI will be 8.5, maybe 7%, that doesn't mean that we're allowed to raise the rent to that new number of 12 or 13. There is going to be a cap of 10%. That's important to note. Now, although that 10% is going to apply to most of California, and that's going to start August 1st. That is the maximum. The 10% would be the maximum. Some of the questions I get is, can we charge less? And the answer is yes. Do you need to do an increase? The answer is no, you don't have to. And this is going to be an individual decision on every landlord. Now, because there's this rent control law, what I've seen, one of the negative factors of rent control is landlords feel like they have to raise them every single year because then they're gonna lose some level of control. So maximum is gonna be 10% moving forward starting August 1st. In the majority of the cities, there are gonna be some exceptions. We will have some links below so that you can find out what the CPI is gonna be in your area, or is your area a specific city that has its own rent control? And if that's the case, you're gonna go by your city's rent control, not the state's. So there you have it. I know that it's a lot of information. There's a lot of details. There's exemptions, there's rent freezes, there's CPIs in various regions. I understand it's difficult. And last year I got about every single question thrown at me. And so two things. Here at Sage Real Estate, our goal is to educate and is to show everyone how to build wealth through real estate. If you're a tenant, let me tell you a little bit about me and my background. I was 4 years old when my family came from Mexico, and our very first apartment was renting a living room floor from another family of 6. We were a family of 9. We were tenants for 10 years before my dad was able to buy his first house. And what I want to share with you is that life changes when you become a homeowner. It doesn't matter where you come from, where you're at now. To have a goal of homeownership will change your life. And let me tell you why. When you're a tenant, and I understand that sometimes you have to be, we had to be, I understand that. Your rents will always go up. So you're not gonna avoid this increase. When you're a homeowner, you cap your biggest expense because you get a 30-year mortgage that doesn't change. That gives you this freedom and this liberty. So if you're a tenant and every year you're worried about how much is my rent gonna go up, and maybe you're fed up, and maybe in your head you're thinking, is it possible or is it impossible to become a homeowner? Let's have a conversation and let's figure out if there's a way to make the impossible possible. 2, if you're an owner and you're confused, or maybe you've owned for a long time and you want to explore your options, maybe it's time to buy out of state, maybe it's time to 1031 into what we call a triple net lease. There's lots of options. Please give me a call and let me see how I can help you. So thank you for tuning in. We spent hours researching this topic. Last year, it was our most popular video because it's impacting everyone's life. And so the information, you can't find it very easily. So we pulled in all the information to provide this video. So I ask you for your help. If you like what we've given you, please send us referrals. We have nationwide affiliates, statewide affiliates. If you like what we've given you, write me a Google review, Sage Real Estate. Subscribe, comment below, continue tuning in. Thank you so much.